us a quick countdown, but it's okay. I'm ready to go.
We're ready.
Ready to go.
We're ready.
Year's
The
wrapping
light's
up.
good.
Year is wrapping up. It's getting a little dimmer outside, but
Yeah.
we still shining.
We are.
We trying to help
Always
other
shining.
people shine. How we
That's
helping people
right.
shine into this new year? What's
Yes,
the word
it's crazy
today?
because we had a plan in March when COVID hit and businesses started shutting down. Everybody was reacting to it. We had conversations about people going into hibernation and kind of disappearing and now coming back out. But really, it's one of those things where I think initially everybody just wanted to get back to normal. And we were all just kind of waiting. Like, when is stuff just going to get back to how it was? Well, it might not ever. Who knows? We don't really know. But I think the point is you have to focus on what are your short-term plans. Not long-term, not, looking all the way ahead to end of 2021.
That's one of the biggest problems. A lot of people are like, all right, let me focus on the end of 2021.
Right.
2022. They creating their 1 to 3 year plans now. But
what am I going to do in a year? Yep.
But your short-term goals,
yeah,
those long-term goals.
It's almost like how the administration focuses on the first 100 days. When you start a new job, you do like a 3-month probation sometimes. So I think people need to focus on a 90-day plan. I think you start with, what do I want to get done in 3 months? I think that's a safe, good place to start. Instead of planning out the next year to 3 years, like you said. What do I want to accomplish in the next 3 years? Next 3 months.
But why is that? Because I thought that a lot of organizations and people, when you're planning, you do like 3 years or 5 years, and then you deduce and you come back and
that's right.
Based on that long-term goal, that's how you establish your short-term goals.
That's typical.
So
we're not in typical.
So what do you suggest?
So I think from an organizational perspective, you still do that. Okay. Strategic planning is still extremely important. So the 3 to 5 year plan for an organization, keep doing that, keep planning that based on the trends that you've seen, for your business and for your company. So you still do that. But you should also have your immediate short-term goals. So a lot of organizations, they don't typically do that. They don't say, what do I want to do in the next 3 to 6 months or 9 months. They don't work in small increments like that. They stick to the strategic plan and they align goals against the strategic plan. But I think from a consumer perspective, a user perspective, we really, the people that are trying to survive this pandemic, really need to focus on our 3-year plan. But I keep saying 3 year because I'm thinking ahead, but our 3-month plan, and businesses need to do the same thing. We're so used to focusing on the long term, but we know this pandemic is not giving us a playbook. It's not giving us a rule book.
Yep.
It's not telling us it's going to look like this. We're focused on all the experts, the medical experts, that are telling us what to do. Wear your mask, do this, limit your contact. So we're trying to follow the rules, but those are changing. Yep. Some of those are changing week by week. Some of them are changing month by month. The numbers are going up, then they're going down, and now they've skyrocketed beyond where they were in the early months. So I think we need to focus on what we want to do in the next couple of months and stop having these audacious goals that we're not sure if we're going to be able to accomplish because the environment is dictating otherwise.
In my mind, it comes down to not locking on and holding on to old habits or what you've built. It's being able and being comfortable with diving into uncertainty to elevate. And so when I think about your idea of like this 3-month goal process, it's like I'm gonna forget that I've built this amazing. So this is more for like businesses, right? We are seeing companies deal with having to spend all their cash on hand to kind of stay afloat. Mm-hmm. And when they look at their books, it's like, do I tap into my savings and try to make it through and hope that my business will come back? Do I shut down and then reestablish something? And when I think about the market and when I think about kind of what's going on overall, I think it makes sense for some businesses to pump the brakes, close down, acknowledge that I've built something amazing, and prepare themselves for the next wave and to establish something new. And so from the perspective of businesses should think about the 1 to 3 or 3 to 5 year plan versus people thinking about 1 month, 3 month, 6 month plan, for me it makes sense for businesses to, some of them, to shut down,
Yeah.
to save the money they have and be ready to reinvest that with the new things.
Yeah.
And I mean, we'll continue to talk about some of the plans for the next administration, but from a business perspective, I think that businesses should definitely look at, all right, in the next 3 months, the next 6 months, should I shut down so that I can reestablish something new?
Yeah, and I think, for some organizations that would make sense to do. There's some that may not have the flexibility to do that. And I think, considering things like your remote workforce, your real estate costs, the things that we've been talking about that are some of those higher expenses, rethinking that. There's some businesses that have already decided to consolidate their operations, shut down certain locations, enable their workforce to be more productive by putting the cost and directing them to the tools and technologies that they need. I think a lot of businesses need to be focusing there, because I think, of course, back in March and April, businesses their immediate reaction was, we have to enable people to work from home, but we also have to keep our building and our operations going, because this pandemic is going to end. We're going to have people back in the office. Well, we know it's not happening that way. So there's some companies that have made the decision to close operations, or at least, pause operations in their physical locations through the end of the year. And some of them still have plans to go back in January. There are others that are like, you know what? We're going to have this is an incremental basis. We're going to check in and figure it out. But either way, you have to have, like you said, the strategic approach. You still plan that way, but you really have to do bite-sized increments in how you provide services, and if you're still going to provide the same services. Now, for individuals, when you think about some of those goal setting activities and really thinking about what you want to do in the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, because I like to think about it in 3-month increments. It could be small goals, such as, how do I develop myself professionally? What books do I read? What certifications do I get? What classes do I take? It's things like that, for the person that you are, and developing yourself to be more marketable, or to increase your marketability, or to really just enhance your own professional skills. You might want to do some goal setting that is more targeted to smaller increments to help you be more marketable, because you might be thinking about what the next thing is for you. So don't sit on it and think about it. Actually start enhancing your skills now.
And there's a bunch of signs that people can look at, from the change in administration, from, different industries that are beginning to grow, looking at different corporate earnings reports to see who's doing more in sales, who's doing more in services, and begin to kind of tailor your skills and tailor the things you invest your time in to ultimately be prepared for the second half of the pandemic and the second half of everything that's going on. I would say that in terms of short-term goals, it makes a lot of sense to invest more time than thinking about money. With interest rates being so low, with the stock market being fluctuating so high, now is a good time. I mean, it's never a bad time to get into the stock market, because they say if you look to long-term goals, your stocks will grow. But in terms of just investing your time and investing, this idle time and this time that we have is probably the most important.
Yeah, and I think, of course, we know what the data shows us with how high unemployment is right now. And we know that it's higher now than it was back in the recession times of like 2007, 2009. So we know that there are a lot of people losing their jobs. There's a lot of instability when it comes to employment. However, there are a number of industries that are still hiring, that are actually hiring more than they were before the pandemic. We know that there's a lot of growth in health, cyber security, defense services. The government is still hiring. The financial sector, with respect to those organizations that provide cashless services. So I think it's important for people to pay attention to what's growing right now because of the pandemic, and what skills do you have that align themselves to those things. And if you don't, how can you get them if you're interested in moving to that market? Because, there's a balance here, as the unemployment rate goes higher and higher, there's still a number of organizations that are, growing too, and booming and thriving. And you really need to be paying attention to who they are and what industries they're in. So not specific companies, but the industry. And so I know we're going to, we want to talk about the change of the administration, but even before that occurs, health IT, health services, big businesses, lots of jobs, lots of movement there, and it'll continue to be. Cybersecurity, like I mentioned a second ago, is continuing to grow, not just because we always need people to help us be defensive against our network attacks and that kind of thing, but every business is going to need cyber protections. Every industry. That's the beautiful thing about cybersecurity. Every single industry that exists today is going to need cybersecurity expertise.
It's transient. Like, it doesn't change.
It doesn't.
Across industries. And to think about where our country is going, where the world is going, everyone is tech is becoming the biggest thing ever.
It is.
And in a couple of years, everything that we have, everything that we own, every service that's provided is going to be automated in some type of way, which means that all of them are going to eventually need some type of risk management to protect against hacks and attacks.
And you're right. Everything that we have that can, if you are paying attention to the trends, virtually anything can be automated.
Yeah.
So if it can be automated, someone needs to do that automation. Someone needs to enable it. Someone needs to help it go. So if you need IT people, you also need cyber people. They go hand in hand. Yeah. So across industries, like, that's going to continue to be a space where there's going to be increased growth and marketability for sure. So
it's funny because beginning of this pandemic and prior to this pandemic, I've never been a big reader, other than when I was younger. When you used to make me read.
Forced reading for Daniel Wrights.
All the time.
I did.
Which made me end up hating reading. Which pushed me to hate reading.
I don't know that that's what happened.
In high school and college.
I don't know that that's what happened.
Reading books weren't my thing.
I don't know that that's what made you hate it.
All that to say, over the past few months during this pandemic, I've read a lot more. And our ability, as humans, to self-educate, like, a lot of people are looking into certifications, training programs, and if they aren't, they should.
Yeah.
But you can also self-educate. Now's the time to just dive into reading, dive into good books, and if you don't know about something, read about it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to start with some fat cybersecurity book to learn about cybersecurity or health IT. You can start by reading articles online. Yeah. You can get you a small newspaper subscription, or you can just read blanket articles put out. You can read people's blog posts that are experts in those industries. You can read peer review articles that some of the experts in these industries are putting out. And you can begin to just start a daily habit of maybe reading one article on a subject you want to learn, on a daily basis, and say, okay, going back to short-term goals, for these next 30 days, I'm going to read one article a day on healthcare, on healthcare IT, on cybersecurity, on tech. What's going on in these industries? Where's the industry going to? How are they innovating it? How can new people just trying to get into that industry tap into it and break in? And if you just literally commit to reading one article over 30 days, which is 1 month, that's 30 articles you've read. Now you have a good baseline of whether that's a good industry for you or not. The next 30 days you can commit to something new. The next 30 days you can commit to something new. Within 3 months, you can be, I don't want to say an expert, but you can be in this transitionary period where you know whether that's a good industry for you to tap into. You know how you can utilize the skills and professional experience you've already developed to make that transition. Yeah. There's a bunch of things you can do by just committing to small, incremental tasks or assignments for yourself. Yeah. Over a month period of time.
So I want to give a recommendation. When you just talked about the people that don't want to read, that are not readers, that don't, aren't interested in books. Maybe they like online periodicals. Videos. Yeah, the videos, of course. But for some of the people that do, at least like magazines and reading articles, they might not want to read like you said, a big handbook of some sort. I have 3 really good recommendations. Fast Company, absolutely love it. Love the magazine. They post articles for free that you don't have to subscribe to. They'll give you a piece of it. Love it because it's cross-cutting. It talks about various industries and where the growth is. Inc. magazine does a very similar type of creation of articles and content that really talks about being incorporated from a business perspective, what you're doing, what's happening, what's hot, what's growing. An entrepreneur magazine for the people that are thinking about starting businesses. They have all kinds of stuff in there that could help you get started and really to show what everybody else is doing. I love those magazines. I'm a reader, so I love to read. Oh, and for the moms that had a kid that you were forcing to kind of read, because I totally was. I put books on Daniel all the time.
A lot of moms are probably not forcing them to read.
I call it force. I said you had to do it at this time.
I'm saying there's a lot of moms that probably aren't.
That probably aren't. That their kids might just like to read. But my point I want to make is...
I'm talking about the kids that don't like to read. The moms
but
that aren't making them read.
But my point is, it comes back. What are you doing right now? You're reading all the time. I promise you it's because of the foundation. So you might have a kid that doesn't like doing something. And I know you didn't like reading at the time. And, I was pushing it because it was important for you. You always come back to something that you learned. So I'm just saying. I'm not saying that you're not doing some of that on your own. But a lot of times, like the things that are important, you find your way back to it. It's the saying about once you have a foundation, kind of finding your way back home. That's what I think that does. So I want to encourage the parents out there that are struggling to, get their kids to love reading. If you're doing it, and it's important for them to do it, help them along the way too. So for the homeschooling and all the remote learning that's going on right now, make it interesting for your kids too, because we have to make it interesting for ourselves, which is what you've started doing by reading the various types of books that you like and are enjoying now. So for the people that don't like the novels, don't like the large handbooks, don't want the how-to guides, you have videos, you have online periodicals, you have magazines as an option. But, one of the things that we'll see, with the change of administration is not only, what we just talked about, the industries that are hiring. When you pay attention to where the administration is going, that's also going to be, a lot of job creation that's going to happen too, because the funding that will be associated with certain things. So we talked about health and health being big now. When 2021 hits and we have a change of administration, there's going to be a large emphasis on health, which is going to create even more jobs that we're seeing right now and more positions and more opportunities because of the pandemic and trying to solve the pandemic and reduce the challenges that we're having associated with it. So I know there's some others.
Yeah, I would say, one of the things that we've talked about is, college students and college students wanting to not, or people that I've known that have wanted to pause, drop out of school or, defer. We know a lot of people are beginning to move because of remote work. They're like, I can move. We got a lot of young people, millennials, I think more than ever before, are starting to move back home with their parents. For better or for worse, when thinking about the pandemic, we've talked about this often. A lot of people are, focusing on their mental health. A lot of people are, focusing on themselves, their self-care, because this year has been heavy. But when I really think about this year as a whole and investing your time into yourself now, a big part of that is preparing yourself for this next wave of new businesses, new jobs, and essentially this recession that we're about to hit, the upward turn of it. And when I think about the upward turn, I think back to the short-term goals, and I think back to how you can invest yourself, to prepare yourself for what's going on. And that's through certification classes, that's by reading more, that's by, being able to move yourself laterally into other industries and how to do that. And right now is the time to invest in your self-development. Your self-development out from a personal standpoint, from a professional standpoint, and from a goal standpoint.
Yeah, and I get it. We've all needed to pause, reset, just get it together. I mean, this year has knocked us off our feet in so many different ways. And so I understand that everybody, individually have had to kind of take inventory on where they are and what they want to do. And we've heard, like you said, a lot of your friends, colleagues, different people have been like, I'm not doing school right now. I've had a number of students that have had to just kind of pause and stop, stop school a semester and come back. But I want to encourage people, this is not the time to pause. It's okay to take a quick break. But this is the time to actually resurface, rise like the phoenix, like really figure out, what do I want to do to enhance my overall state of being, professionally, mentally, socially, physically. This is the time to do all of that, to refocus your attention on what you want to do and what you want to be. So for the students, that have or are thinking about taking a break, I can't speak to the ones that have actually done it, but if you're thinking about taking a break, I encourage you to push through and think about the benefit in the long run. When you started school, you started for a reason. You had a goal in mind. Maybe that goal has shifted a bit because the world has shifted quite a lot. But this is the time to enhance yourself, even more. Think about those certifications that align to the industry that you want to be in. Think about those trainings, free trainings. And I'm talking about the stuff that doesn't cost a lot of money, because a lot of the things out there do cost. Yeah. But let's look at the free opportunities right now. Let's look at the free trainings, the free learnings. Let's look at what's available to you as options through your school. You have academic advisors, counselors, all kinds of smart people that are in the positions that they're in, and they're waiting to hear from you on what you want to do with your career now, or what you want to do with your schooling now. Get some advice, get some mentoring, get some coaching, get some help, but don't quit. Like I would encourage anybody to keep going. I was having a conversation with my niece recently, who is a rising junior at Trinity University in DC, and she felt the same way. And I've heard this from several students that they're just like, this is a lot. I don't want to do this anymore. I need a break. And my response to her is, the world is a lot. It's going to continue to be a lot. Yep. There's always going to be a challenge, and you have to practice mental toughness. And what I told her is, I'm not telling you to do it on your own. I'm telling you, get some help to do it. You have me, you have your mother, you have school resources, you have people. Get some help to do it. I'm not telling anybody just, deal with it. The
worst part about throwing in a towel now is that there's some people that are narrowing in and pushing forward through these tough times. The ones that are throwing in the towel, like they need a break, they need a pause, it's like you end up going backwards and forwards at the same time. It's like you got some people are going to start shooting light years past you. You got some people that are going to stay stagnant, and you got some people that are going to naturally.
Then you're going to have to deal with the fact that you're behind.
Yeah, and that's
how much harder is that going to be for you? Yeah, now exactly. You're behind and trying to catch up. So that was my talk. That was my advice to her. You keep pushing, you keep going, but recognizing that it's going to be hard, it's going to feel bad, it's going to be tough, but get the help along the way. But don't stop. Keep moving, keep going. And I'm like, you're almost there. You're almost done.
And also, when you are investing in yourself and you're developing these new skills and you're developing your new talents and you're learning more and you're getting these certifications, help yourself by raising your credentials, by putting it out there. And there's a multitude of ways you can do that, right? If you're doing a bunch of free courses and free certifications online, or you're training yourself in different things and you're becoming knowledgeable in those subjects, learn how to put that information into your resume.
Yep.
You can have a core competency section in your resume where you list out the things you're knowledgeable of. You can have skills, components to your resume where you can continue to list new skills that you're learning, new softwares and systems that are out there. You can add those things to your resume. Yep. On LinkedIn, you can put, what you're skilled in. You can send messages to people and ask them to endorse those skills, and ultimately heighten and lift your credibility and your credentials by doing your own work towards it.
Yeah, I had a student that wanted me to review their resume, and I did. And one of the things that he learned that was separate and apart from school, separate and apart from a job, is he learned how to build a number of applications. And he asked me, how do I articulate that? I'm like, oh my gosh, you did that on your own? It was all self-learning, self-taught, read some books, saw some videos, took some courses. And that's something that he could highlight on his resume. Doesn't matter that he didn't get that experience from work or school, but he learned how to build an application. He was able to articulate what it was, what it did, how he built it, what programming language, etc. And that's the kind of stuff that makes you even more credible and even more marketable. And that's one of the things that when I talk to young people, especially that are in this crossroads or in college and trying to figure out what they want to do. I'm always telling them, there's so many different things that how to do and that you've learned. You have to figure out how to convey those. And it's a great point that you mentioned about getting endorsed on LinkedIn and using networking as a way to support your career. But you sometimes need to talk through that with people to help you understand how to do it. Don't sit on all these great skills that you have and just, keep them out of your resume and not express how creative you've been and how innovative you've been. You have an opportunity to do that on your resume in other ways and communicating with people. So
well, one fundamental component to networking that a lot of people fail to acknowledge is networking isn't just building a community of people around you that can provide you with opportunities and support your career goals. Developing a network is also learning how to leverage that network.
Yeah.
And understanding that every single person you talk to isn't all of a sudden a business lead for you or
right.
a career lead, but what it can be, and what you have to learn to leverage in building that community is how you can tap people for their knowledge and their expertise in a variety of different areas and a variety of different careers. And even if it's something basic, like how do I reconstruct my resume? I mean, there's thousands of ways you can construct your resume because there's millions of resumes out there because there's millions of people with jobs. And, you can get caught in this tunnel of looking up templates and doing the same cookie cutter ways, but those aren't the things that are going to help you pop. Over the past few weeks, I've talked to a number of different mentees of mine that are trying to shift careers or get new jobs. And I'm like, look, if your resume isn't popping, it's probably getting thrown out.
Yep.
Because
they're not even looking at it.
Hundreds of applications are coming in for these jobs, especially with the small job market. And if your resume doesn't pop off initial eyes, it's probably getting thrown out. And so how can you do that?
Yeah.
How can you reframe reconstruct your resume to highlight key skills, to highlight new things you're doing? And then also to the last point you made, how do you tell your story in a way that is most compelling and most effective?
Yep.
And a big part of storytelling is knowing which stories to tell.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, I haven't applied for a job since college, right? Because I've been an entrepreneur all this time. And so one of my mentees was talking to me, and she had a cover letter. She's like, I need you to read my cover letter. And I was like, people still do cover letters? I forgot. But people do cover letters.
Yeah.
And one of the things about a cover letter that I've continuously told people is stop with the cookie cutter. I did this job, and in this job I learned this, and I've built these skills. Tell a story in your cover letter. Talk about how you've overcome adversity. Talk about why you're passionate about the position that you want to apply for and be in now.
Yeah.
And in that, there's nothing stopping you in your cover letter from saying, hey, over the past 3 months, the pandemic has wrecked our economy, has wrecked our mental health, has put a lot of people down. A part of my journey throughout the pandemic is investing in these skills, which all are very applicable to this job, which are very applicable to my passion. That is the same thing that I will bring to your company and to this position and to what I want you to hire me for. And so really investing time into also learning how to tell compelling stories is so fundamental during this time, because if you can't articulate your story, if you can't articulate what you're doing, if you can't articulate the skills that you're building and your why behind those things, then you're failing. You're failing yourself, and it's like investing negatively in your time.
So one recommendation I have for people that are those same groups of people that you're talking to, that I'm talking to, that don't feel like they're getting hired, or they're trying to figure out, why isn't anyone calling me back on my resume or my cover letter, and is it good enough, and that sort of thing. Do it over. So one thing I find to be extremely helpful is to start from scratch. why do we feel like we have to or should reuse our resume over and over and over again, and reuse that cover letter and change the organization we're sending it to and tweak a couple of words and send? Stop doing that. Stop it. Everybody right now, stop doing that. Don't do it anymore. Throw your resumes away. Okay, don't throw them away. Put them someplace where you can take some information from them, but stop doing that. That's old school. That's old. Nobody's doing that anymore.
I was just telling someone.
They're doing it, but they're not reading those anymore.
Yeah, I was just telling someone the other day, you can have multiple resumes.
Yeah.
Make a different resume for different positions.
And the thing is, if you don't feel like that you should be taking the time to do that, then why should someone be taking the time to review it and hire you? Okay. So a lot of people don't do it because they're being lazy. They don't want to take the time to do it, or they don't feel like it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary if you want to get that job. If you're really interested in getting hired, especially for a particular job that you really want, then put in the time to redo that cover letter, put in the time to redo that resume. I remember when I applied for a job, when I was when I applied for a job to become an SES, one of the things that they asked,
what's SES?
Senior executive, to be in the senior executive service. So in the government. So when I wanted to become a member of the senior executive service, I had to apply and I applied to start into this program.
I think you were one of the youngest SESs ever in federal government history. You were 39 when you got your SES?
I wouldn't say the youngest ever.
Did you go into the program at like 37? Got it by 39?
Yeah, I think I started the program at 36, 37. And so when I applied, one of the things that the application called for was a specific type of resume. So they wanted a resume that had certain core qualifications. So they're like, put this stuff in there. Not by word. We need to see examples of these competencies. And I was like, oh shit, I got to redo this whole resume. Like I had this resume that I thought was solid, that I thought was going to be perfect, that I had, done and tweaked for this program. And I remember staying up all night going, how am I going to, I've said everything I want to say. Not only did they say have these particular competencies covered, but it can't be more than 3 pages. And, if you've had like almost a 20-year career, it's hard to kind of put everything that you want in a page or two. You want to tell them, all this great stuff. Anyway, so after, looking at it, a few minutes and going back and forth about how I wanted to approach it, I scrapped it. I was like, I'm going to do it. It was the best resume I've ever done. That resume was so solid.
By scrapping it.
I scrapped it. And I kept it to the side where I could see, what did I say in here that was good? Okay, I might pull some elements. But, they didn't give me a lot of guidance. They just said these things need to pop. I need to be able to see this stuff or we're not even going to look at it. I mean, they pretty much very plainly said it's not going to make phase 1. So I was like, no, this resume has to make it.
There is a beauty. And I would say one of the things that I've learned this year, there's a beauty in starting fresh.
Yeah.
And letting go to old things. And to old things that you thought or think are amazing or were amazing.
Yeah.
There's a beauty in the unknown, and there's a beauty in starting fresh because in that uncertainty, you find clarity.
And you don't know what you're gonna produce.
Exactly.
The beauty in what you're gonna produce.
And I would say, before leaving Good, I was so stuck on this legacy that I felt like I built. Yep. I was stuck on what I've created over the 4 years and, how I can't leave it because,
this, that, and the other.
Because it's a part of who I am. And then finally I got to a place after really reflecting this year and I was like, it's okay. I spoke to someone, again, tapping into your network. I spoke to someone that actually was a funder of ours and she said, you can look back at your 4 years at Good and be proud of it. Like you've done something remarkable. You've helped thousands of people. You created this out of thin air from college, and it's not something that you need to hold on to feel proud of it.
Exactly.
You can feel proud of it and start completely fresh and completely clean and do better and do something that's more impactful. And when I think about a lot of people, back to the point of you holding on to the resume and us holding on to things that we've built and trying to produce an article or a blog post or new content online. We look at the old things that we've done and we want to replicate that and we want to do that and we want to do that same type of thing when a lot of times it takes starting fresh starting new, not looking at any examples and just going for it. And that's when we create our most beautiful pieces of work, regardless of whether that's written mediums, content, things in our professional experience. It doesn't matter. Starting fresh can help you. And looking towards 2021 and the upcoming weeks, now is the time to be okay with letting go.
Yep.
To be okay with letting go.
Yep. One of the things I like to do, and this is me, but I'll give it to other people to use if you like. But I love whiteboarding. I'll whiteboard things. If you don't have an actual whiteboard, writing things down. So for instance, with the resume example, when if there's a particular job that you're interested in and you read that job description and you read what it is that they want, and you said telling a story. So think about, what do you want them to know? So forget your resume for a second. Just look at it and tell yourself, what is it that I want them to know? Write those things down. What impact do I want to discuss as part of my storytelling? Write those things down. So when I say whiteboarding, I have, I'll put sheets of paper, and even if I don't have a whiteboard, I'll tape them to the wall. I'll put stickies on the wall just so I can visually see it. And I'll stand there and I'll put together a puzzle and put together a story, piece together a puzzle and put together a story of what it is that I want to do. I do that kind of brainstorming when it comes to creating information for my classes, when it comes to giving a presentation, when it comes to applying for a job or thinking through a new business idea, but finding different ways to put that energy out on paper, verbally, however it is that it works for you. But I encourage people to find your creative space. It's not just about looking at that resume and, like I said, tweaking a few words and this and that. Really think through start from scratch. What do I want people to know? The same is true when it comes to your business ideas. So we've been talking a lot about COVID-19 and what's happening in the end of year, moving into 2021. With the economy being in the shape that it's in, we're really going to need to think about additional ways of making money. And not just because of the pandemic, for your own personal economic and financial sustainability. It's fine to have a job or have an income that pays your bills and sustain you. But, is that going to be good enough, in the next coming months, the next coming year, the next coming, couple years? We talked about strategic planning. That's part of your own internal strategic planning, with the shift in how life is just kind of turning its own, life is kind of like turned on its own head, and we are impacted by it. So what do you want to do for yourself financially? What skills do you have right now that could turn into a business? We've talked about that a lot on other episodes, but that's the kind of thing that you whiteboard, that you put down on pieces of paper, other ways to make money and to create a better, more thriving and booming economic environment for yourself.
Absolutely.
Because the world is not going to do it for you. The world will dictate where the economy will go. Mm-hmm. How do you benefit from that? How do you capitalize off of that?
It's funny you say that, because I'm teaching this workshop at Georgetown Business School for both students and alumni.
You didn't tell me this. What
I
is
know.
this?
I know
you
you
didn't tell me this. What in the world?
So I'm teaching this workshop, for alumni and for students that are in this mentee-mentor relationship.
How many people?
I don't know.
You don't know
maybe
yet?
like
Okay.
20.
Okay.
But regardless, teach this workshop, and it's on the fundamentals to success.
Okay.
And I outline that in 5 different ways.
All right.
Right?
Let's hear it.
One is passion, hard work, grit, consistency, and community.
Okay.
And through those 5 dynamics, and through those 5 components, I should say, you're able to either be and go into a new business or entrepreneur, or you develop your entrepreneurial mindset to thrive in wherever market you're in, or whatever you're doing, or whatever your plans are, right? And it's very simple to me. Passion, like, you find what it is you really care about, and it can be anything, right? And when we think about developing our professional skills, if you can find your passion in the industry that you have, or in the industry that you're in, if you can find your passion in, habits you have or content you want to put out, then you'll never feel tired of doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
Hard work.
Agreed.
People often say, hard work, you gotta work hard. Yeah, you should work hard, but being a part of hard work is knowing smart work and knowing how
Right.
to and knowing how to
Hard
work.
work doesn't mean killing yourself.
does not.
Or it doesn't always
does
even
not.
translate to long days and long nights.
It does not, right? And then grit. Grit is your ability to fail over and over again and get back up.
Yeah, resiliency.
Right? Got to be resilient. Got to be resilient. And then consistency. And that ties back into passion and all these other things. If you are consistently waking up at the same time every day, you're consistently chipping at that new skill that you want to develop, or chipping at that new piece of knowledge that you want to learn, or that new industry you want to learn at, even if it goes back to one article a day for 30 days straight, you got to chip at it.
Yeah.
Going back to our example of the little internet
Yeah.
good, right? And then lastly, community. How do you build a community of people that will help you accomplish that goal?
Yeah.
Whether it's your customer, whether it's, your network that can help you and advise you and be your truth tellers. Those are the 5 fundamentals to success.
I like it.
And those are the 5 fundamentals to success with being an entrepreneur, or thinking about how you can navigate, this pivot, or adapting to, what we have in store in 2021. I mean, we know that everyone's adapting. And one key component is us seeing over the weeks leading up to Thanksgiving how businesses on Black Friday, have pushed their Black Friday sales up. We barely get Thanksgiving anymore because it's all Christmas. We got Christmas in November.
I mean, I think Black Friday started at Halloween.
Right, exactly. And that's a pivot that businesses are making, despite where the economy is.
It's true. It's true. So, it's funny because, we joked about it before we started shooting this episode, but I think we started seeing Black Friday sales maybe early October. Yeah. And it's interesting that, like you said, Christmas is being pushed too. So even though there's unemployment, even though there's economic instability, all these things are happening, but, in the retail marketplace, and in e-commerce, they haven't stopped.
Yeah, no.
They said, okay, our sales might have hit a little bit of a decline, but we're not going to let that impact us too much. Christmas happens today,
right,
so here's all the Christmas
These
sales.
Industries are literally dictating when the season starts and stop.
Seriously. So I saw. It's funny. I saw an ad the other day where it was a commercial, and it was a little girl in the commercial talking about what she wants to get her dad for Christmas, and they were like, the family's like, Christmas? And she's like, yeah, like we're doing the tree, we're doing everything. Thanksgiving hadn't even hit, and they're already pushing. A lot of people do like Christmas trees and all that kind of stuff after Thanksgiving. I mean, beginning in November, people are looking for trees and looking for items for the tree, and all this, Christmas stuff is happening. And it's just interesting that, it just tells you a number of things. They have clearly figured out how to pivot and shift in a way that's causing people to move their attention to Christmas early and Black Friday early and all this kind of stuff. They're like, people are not going to be out here standing in lines and stores and all that kind of stuff. So they're making it so they're bringing all that stuff to your home. Yeah. So the pivot is, we've moved from physical sales and that kind of thing. We know that the stores and all that kind of stuff is open, but they've had to modify how many people are in the stores at a given time. Yeah. So they don't have to do that when it comes to online sales. They don't have to do that when it comes to e-commerce.
Put it in your face.
Right. You can shop whenever you want, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So they are capitalizing off of that. And so if you're paying attention, that is how you need to think about your own lives. Yeah. Think about, we've talked about running your life like a business before, but that is what you do. The businesses they get together, they have their boardroom conversation, and they say, we need to do something different this year. You do the same thing for yourself. What do you want to do differently this year? How do you want to make this year? 2020 is still here. We're still in 2020. How do you want to make this year different for you? We had a major setback with the pandemic, but we have an opportunity to figure out our next set of goals and go from there.
And in that same context, businesses do a lot of forecasting and projecting, and they look at where the shifts are in our economy and in society to think forward about how they're going to do consumer sales and how the economy is going to adjust to certain policies so that they can still hit their numbers and thrive. And people need to do the same. We've talked about this before, but now that Joe Biden has won the presidency, one thing to look at is his plan is on his website.
It's there.
His tax plan, his plan for businesses.
Yep.
And it's very simple. Think about your life, your career, the skills you want to build, the certifications you can get, your passions, and how they align with the industries and the things that he's going to put money into, and the policies that are going to change and shift the way our economy is looking. We know that Joe Biden is going to invest in healthcare, like you said, right? Healthcare is going to be a big thing for him.
Yep.
Infrastructure.
Yep.
Construction, auto, 5G, right? Like, we want to become one of the premier countries in the 5G network, and wireless and broadband, right? Clean energy. He's going to get back into sustainability and push our country towards getting back to a place where we're lowering our emissions. So how can your skills, your passions, the things you want to do translate under those buckets?
Right, and I want to go back to what we said a few minutes ago about IoT and Cyber Security. Every industry that you just mentioned, they're going to have a thriving need, an urgent need for IT and cybersecurity experts to build those systems.
I think that should be your article this week.
Systems.
I think that should be your article. That should be your LinkedIn. We keep talking
about
how we need to
LinkedIn
elevate ourselves.
Articles are coming.
We keep talking about how our viewers need to elevate themselves and build different platforms and build their content. Well, Showtime.
I got it. I'm on it.
This podcast. We need you to double down on your content by writing some stuff.
Look for content.
Bringing up cyber.
On the Color Scheme Biz LinkedIn page. Coming soon.
Up cyber. What's up?
It's coming soon.
Let the people know.
It's coming soon. And oh, by the way, for people that are interested in the government, a point of information on the government piece is you just talked about Joe Biden's plans with respect to tax cuts. That means, so one of the things that, I worked at the IRS, I worked at the Department of Treasury. It's interesting. People don't realize that whenever we have, not just a change of administration, but whenever we have changes in tax cuts, tax-related programs, those generate changes to systems. They need people that run those systems. They need people that can create those systems, enhance those systems, secure those systems. They being the government. Not just the government, but private industry and private sector that supports any kind of financial-based or tax administration-based systems or programs. So there's also going to be hiring around that. So this is for, like I said, the government people that are interested in the government and people that are interested in private industry that has anything to do with, like I said, payment systems, financial services, and tax-related payment systems and services. Be on the lookout for that. But a point that I want to make sure people know is that if you are thinking about a government job right now, if you've applied or you're interested in applying, don't fret, apply, but the waiting period might be a bit extended because when there's a change of administration, sometimes, there will be a hold on some of those jobs. Sometimes they'll be canceled, sometimes they'll go away. But for the ones that are actually in the queue that have funding and approval and authorization, moving into 2021, they might be paused. So your application may be out there and you may be waiting for a period of time until the administration actually happens. So I want to make sure people have that awareness that are really, that are waiting to hear back on jobs in the government. You might not yet, because those jobs are tied to the current administration. So they may go away, they may be paused, or they may just be held. But be paying attention to January. If you're interested in working for the government, there will likely be a plethora of job openings around end of January, February. So I'm not saying don't apply now, but just be paying attention to that because that's how it works.
And one of the things about changing administration is that also impacts private industries, right?
Yeah, it does.
So it affects private industries' ability to get contracts, the contracts they have, and their hiring as well.
It does. And even those contracts that have been won and they're waiting, to receive funding, those will likely get paused too. Sometimes they can't work, and they're waiting until January, February to even be able to work some of those. So,
but that's why one of the biggest things is preparation.
Yeah.
Because even though there's going to be a freeze in jobs and hiring across industries because of the change in administration, it makes so much sense to prepare yourself
yes,
for
we're
the
giving
back
you the
end of that.
tips. We're giving you the tips right now.
Working on your resume,
Yeah, we're
contacting
giving them to
people,
you.
getting them to revise your stuff,
We're
look at it.
We're giving you all the juice,
developing
like everything.
skills.
You're getting it right now.
Like,
you're getting it.
This is
Yeah.
like a playbook.
Yeah, seriously.
You know when President Obama said that him and Joe Biden left a playbook for pandemic response
They
to
did.
Trump? This is our playbook.
This is
how
the
to
playbook.
succeed in the coming months. Look, read it, check it out. It ain't long. It ain't long. Maybe we need to take notes, team. We need to create some written content.
Seriously, like these are gems.
So we can read them quick, or we can start creating how-to videos. Let's do some how-to videos.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That'd be awesome.
How to prepare for 2021.
Seriously, because right now we're talking about surviving the current pandemic.
Here's your pandemic survival kit.
Seriously,
we can sell these things on packages. So I was looking earlier. You know how OnlyFans. You familiar with OnlyFans?
Yeah.
So OnlyFans up to this point has been like, people selling services,
right?
Posting, look, posting.
That's what you want to call
them? Posting pictures and new videos, and it's just like this nude video.
I'll say racy content.
Yeah, racy content site. But what we're seeing is people are beginning to take that OnlyFans marketplace and turning into a marketplace of content production and services.
Yeah.
It's like masterclass, but for people that aren't
which
known
is really cool.
or experts in certain
Because right now,
industries.
for the most part, people use YouTube for that. You know, but there is a need for something else.
And because you also get to charge people monthly amount so that they can view your content. And so again, thinking about what's next, if you're learning something, finding a way to put it onto something like an OnlyFans or a Patreon to sell to people is super impactful, especially if you're in one of these positions that are going to hire. Here's how you prepare to become a cyber expert in the government.
Seriously.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Really? I mean, and we talked, we were talking about reading and, excuse me, how parents are working and managing remote school and that sort of thing. I need a drop of water. How the parents are managing all that. I mean, there's some parents that are they're really excelling at this remote schooling kind of situation, and some of them it's been trial and error. How about they could do how-to videos on that. Like these parents, there are some parents that are really, really having an extremely difficult time.
How to discipline your child, or how to create
how to have work-life balance.
Yeah.
With remote working and remote learning. It's a balancing act and it's a juggling act. So the point is, whatever you might be great at something, and you have not used that to market yourself, but now you can, and there are different platforms that you can do it. So why not showcase what you know and find a way to get paid for it? There's the plus, too. And if you can't, maybe you start out doing it for free and don't, charge for it. In order to leverage your ability to charge for it later. So
in my mind, it really comes down to having foresight in relation to what it is you're looking to accomplish in the short term and then also in the long term, because we know what's coming. It's not rocket science. We know it's been happening all year. We know what's needed to fix some of these things. So how can you prepare yourself? It's in front of you.
Right.
It's literally in front of you.
What would be really cool? I just thought about that, everything that we're talking about, some people, still might not know how. What's the how? How do I do this? How do I forecast? How do I be proactive in kind of approaching 2021 and approaching the end of 2020? I would encourage people to read about those companies that have survived major setbacks. Or that have thrived, in an economical downturn and that kind of stuff. And there are a number of case studies out there. Southwest is a good example, from an airline perspective. I was just trying to think of some others. They have a number of case studies out there about because a lot of people are like, Southwest, you have to stand in the line, you don't do assigned seating, there's all these, some people don't like Southwest, but Southwest has been thriving for years. and they have continued to be a leader in the marketplace when it comes to travel. The only limit to it is it. Of course, it doesn't go everywhere. Yeah. They have a specific set of cities that they travel to, that you'll be able to travel to. But anyway, the point is, if you don't know what it means to forecast, and you don't know what it means to sort of plan ahead
or pivot,
read about it. There's information out there for free. Read about what businesses have done, even if they're corporate structures. I promise you there's some tools and there's some tips and there's some techniques that you'll gather from that reading that you can apply to your own life. It's essential.
It's very simple. Success leaves clues. History repeats itself.
Yeah.
Those two things are true.
Yeah.
They've always been true.
Yeah.
And looking at how I've personally begun to enhance my professional aptitudes and my intellect, by going back to school and doing certain classes. The best schools make you read. It's like you pay.
Yeah.
It's like you pay to get told what to read to become an expert in the subject, and then you talk about it.
Yeah.
You can self-learn. You can read a little bit of history, look at the two greatest recessions or depressions that our country has had, in the last 100 years. And read about how policy was enacted to make us get over the hump.
Yep.
Read about companies that were failing and were able to rise. Read about companies that were established during that time. And then literally try and look to replicate those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's that simple.
It is that simple.
It's that simple. So we're at it for today. This episode was
this was fire.
Good
all kinds of tips.
Good end of the year episode.
I think we've given the people a lot today. I think we always do, but we have the playbook.
We need to write this playbook out.
Yeah,
Come on,
we do.
What are we gonna do?
All
we're gonna commit to it, or
we're
what?
On it. That's my phrase. We're on it.
Boom.
All right, Color Scheme out.